At 11 years old, doctors told Lionel Messi he would never grow taller than 4 feet 7 inches. His own body was failing him. The treatment that could save his future cost $1,000 a month, and his family in Rosario couldn't afford it. Every major club in his own country turned him away. This is the boy who would rise to become an 8-time Ballon d'Or winner and World Cup champion. But between that diagnosis and that destiny were years of sacrifice, rejection, and one desperate agreement scribbled on a napkin, and it all began with a grandmother who refused to let anyone count him out. Rosario, Argentina, pulses with football. In the narrow streets and dusty parks, the game is more than a pastime, it's a birthright. Among the crowds of children chasing after battered balls, one boy stood apart. At 5 years old, Lionel Messi was smaller than the rest, his frame almost swallowed by the shirts and shorts handed down from older siblings. But the ball seemed drawn to his feet, responding to every touch, every instinct. His grandmother, Celia Cuccittini, watched him with a faith that refused to waver. She saw what others missed, the way he never tired, the way his eyes lit up at the first sight of a ball. When the neighborhood club Grandoli found itself one player short for a 7-a-side match, Celia seized the moment. The coach, Salvador Aparicio, hesitated. No, he is tiny," he protested. Celia pressed forward, her voice steady and sure. "Play him," she insisted. "Take him in!" With a reluctant nod, the coach agreed, warning that if Messi cried, not to worry. But when the whistle blew, Messi didn't flinch. He darted down the wing, weaving between boys much older and stronger. His balance, his touch, his sense of space, all of it seemed to belong to someone far beyond his years. That afternoon, on a makeshift pitch in Rosario, a grandmother's belief became a boy's opportunity. What began as a simple act of faith set in motion a story that would echo far beyond the boundaries of Grandoli. In that moment, Messi learned that sometimes all it takes is one person to say yes. Talent poured out of Messi in waves, impossible to ignore, even as his body lagged behind. At Grandoli, he darted through defenders, leaving older, taller boys trailing in his wake. The move to Newell's old boys brought tougher competition, but the story stayed the same. Messi controlled games with a vision and touch far beyond his years. Whispers began to ripple through the stands. How could someone so small dominate so completely? But as the seasons passed, concern grew into something sharper. While teammates stretched and filled out, Messi's growth stalled. Coaches and parents watched as his shorts hung lower and his shoes fit year after year. The contrast became impossible to ignore. By age 11, Messi was still a head shorter than most boys his age. A year of hospital visits and anxious waiting led to a diagnosis that changed everything. Doctors confirmed a rare growth hormone deficiency. Without intervention, they warned, Messi might never grow taller than 140 centimeters, less than 4'7". The prescription was clear: daily injections of synthetic hormone, a regimen that could last years. The cost was staggering, reaching up to $1,500 a month, more than his family could ever hope to afford. The news landed like a blow. The dream of football greatness, once so close, now seemed to hang by a thread. Every match, every training session became a race against time and biology. Messi's gifts were undeniable, but now, his future depended on a treatment as costly as it was essential. In the face of this new reality, the boy who played without fear was forced to confront his own fragility. The stakes had never been higher, not just for his career, but for the simple act of growing up. Night after night, the sound of a syringe cap snapping open became as familiar in the Messi household as the ticking of the kitchen clock. The treatment was relentless, each injection a reminder that their youngest son's future depended on a medicine they could barely afford. Jorge Messi, who worked shifts at a steel factory, counted every peso, stretching paychecks to cover the mounting bills. The cost of the synthetic hormone hovered near $1,500 a month, a sum that threatened to swallow the family whole. Yet the alternative, abandoning the treatment, felt unthinkable. As the months turned to years, the injections became Lionel's own quiet ritual. By age 12, he no longer waited for his parents. He learned to steady his hand, pinch the skin on his thigh, and press the needle in. The pain was sharp but brief. The worry lingered longer. Each night he performed this act of discipline in silence, knowing that missing even a single dose could mean the end of his dream. At school and on the pitch, the difference in height made him a target. Teammates joked, rivals jeered, and sometimes the words cut deeper than any injection. Doubt crept in from every direction, not just from outsiders, but from within the family too. How long could they keep this up? Was it fair to ask so much of a child? But Lionel never complained. He trained with the same intensity he brought to his nightly injections. The sacrifices, his father's exhaustion, his mother's worry, his own discipline, became the quiet foundation beneath every goal, every dribble, every hope that the next game might bring them closer to something more than survival. River Plate scouts watched Messi carve through defenders in Buenos Aires, their notes filled with praise for his footwork and vision. Yet when the question of his future came up, the answer was cold. The club, like so many others in Argentina, balked at the cost of his treatment. $900 a month for hormone injections, more than most families could dream of, and more than River Plate was willing to risk on a boy whose body still seemed fragile. They admired his talent but turned away, leaving the Messis with nothing but hope and a sense of time running out. Word of Messi's gifts traveled across the Atlantic. In Barcelona, a handful of scouts and agents traded stories of a child prodigy from Rosario. The invitation came quickly. At 13, Messi and his father boarded a plane for Spain, carrying suitcases and the weight of a family's last gamble. The trial at La Masia was electric. Onlookers watched as Messi danced past defenders twice his size, his control and balance leaving coaches speechless. Still, the decision was not simple. Barcelona's board hesitated, wary of the medical commitment and the cost. For days, Messi's future hung in the balance, caught between the awe of his performances and the cold arithmetic of club budgets. The promise of a new life was close enough to touch, but never guaranteed. Lunch at the Pompeia Tennis Club in Barcelona stretched on, the table crowded not with plates but with worry. Jorge Messi waited, his son's future balanced on a question no one seemed ready to answer. For months, the family had lived in limbo, caught between the hopes sparked by Lionel's dazzling trial and the silence of club officials wary of the medical bills. Every day without a decision felt heavier than the last. At that table, Carlos Rexach, the club's sporting director, studied the faces around him and saw the risk of waiting any longer. With no official contract at hand, he reached for the nearest thing, a paper napkin. In blue ink, he wrote a single promise. On December 14, 2000, with Horacio Gaggioli and Josep Maria Minguella as witnesses, Rexach pledged that Barcelona would sign Lionel Messi, no matter the doubts of others, as long as the agreed terms were kept. That napkin, signed right there in a moment of conviction, was more than a contract. It was a leap of faith. Barcelona agreed to pay for the hormone treatment. The uncertainty that had shadowed the Messi family finally gave way to a new reality. In that instant, football history changed course. At La Masia, the world of football opened up in ways that once seemed impossible. Messi arrived in Barcelona still small for his age, but the hormone therapy, now fully funded, was working. Each month he grew stronger, his frame catching up with the talent that had always set him apart. The club's doctors tracked his progress, watching as he edged closer to the height and power needed for the European game. On the pitch, Messi moved through the youth ranks at a speed that startled even the most seasoned coaches. He glided past defenders, not with brute force, but with a low center of gravity and a touch that seemed to defy physics. By 14, he had reached 5'7", his growth finally matching his ambition. The academy staff, once cautious, began to whisper that they were witnessing something rare. Frank Rijkaard, then Barcelona's first-team manager, saw more than just potential. He saw a player ready to make an impact among men twice his age. Rijkaard's decision to promote Messi to train with the senior squad sent a jolt through the club. It wasn't just about skill, it was about trust. Messi's first sessions with the first team brought a new challenge, proving himself among global stars. Ronaldinho, Barcelona's Brazilian magician, became a mentor in those early days. He welcomed the quiet teenager, offering encouragement and advice, and even sharing the ball in matches when others hesitated. Ronaldinho's belief acted as a shield, easing Messi's transition from prodigy to professional. With every appearance, the excitement grew. Fans, journalists, and teammates began to sense that Barcelona's gamble had produced not just a promising youngster, but a phenomenon in the making. On the pitch at Camp Nou, Lionel Messi became a force that defied explanation. What began as a story of hope and rescue soon turned into something far greater, a reign of brilliance that changed football itself. In his first full season with Barcelona's senior team, Messi announced himself with a blur of quicksilver dribbles and goals that seemed to come from nowhere. The numbers began to climb: 38 goals in 2008 to 2009, then 47, then 53. And soon, records that once seemed untouchable fell at his feet. In 2012, he scored 91 goals in a single calendar year, shattering a mark that had stood for 4 decades. But the statistics only hint at what made him different. Messi's genius lay in the way he saw the game, passing lanes invisible to others, changes of pace that left world-class defenders flat-footed, finishes that curled past desperate goalkeepers with impossible precision. His left foot became legend, but so did his humility. After each goal, he pointed to the sky, a silent tribute to his grandmother Celia, never forgetting the roots that shaped him. Barcelona too transformed in his image. With Messi at the heart of the team, the club claimed 4 Champions League titles, 10 La Liga crowns, and a run of domestic and international trophies that placed them among the greatest sides in history. Teammates like Xavi and Iniesta orchestrated the midfield, but it was Messi who turned possibility into certainty season after season. His consistency was breathtaking: more than 40 goals a year for over a decade, 5 Ballon d'Or awards by age 28, and a reputation as the best player on earth. Every match felt like a new chapter in a story no one wanted to end. Yet, for all the triumph and adulation, one question remained, a question that lingered just beyond the glow of club glory. The world watched Lionel Messi rewrite the record books at Barcelona, but for many, his greatness remained shadowed by a single absence. Every trophy, every Ballon d'Or, every impossible goal, none could silence the voices that insisted his legacy needed one more prize. The World Cup, the ultimate symbol of football immortality, hovered just out of reach. Argentina's colors weighed heavy on his shoulders. In 2006, a teenage Messi made his World Cup debut, but the dream ended in the quarterfinals. 4 years later in South Africa, Argentina fell to Germany, the questions growing sharper. By 2014, Messi led his country to the final in Brazil, 90 minutes against Germany for a place among the legends. When the whistle blew, the scoreboard read 1-0. Messi stood alone on the Maracana grass, staring at the golden trophy, silver medal around his neck, the pain written across his face. The world's expectations only grew heavier. In 2018, another early exit. Each defeat twisted the pressure tighter. For every goal scored in Barcelona, there were critics in Buenos Aires who wondered why he couldn't do the same for Argentina. The comparisons to Maradona grew louder. Was Messi truly the greatest if he couldn't deliver the World Cup? Every 4 years, the same hope and heartbreak. Each failure didn't dull the hunger, it sharpened it. The world waited, restless, for the one stage where Messi's genius had yet to be crowned. The weight of a nation, the doubts of a generation, all pressing in as time began to run short. The opening whistle in Qatar sent a shockwave through the world. Argentina, led by Messi, fell 2-1 to Saudi Arabia, a defeat that felt like the end before the journey had truly begun. Doubt rushed in from every corner. Commentators questioned the team's resolve, social media filled with disbelief. But inside the Argentine camp, something else took root, a fierce, silent determination. Messi, now in his 5th World Cup, gathered his teammates in the dressing room. There were no grand speeches, only steady words and a presence that calmed nerves. He reminded them that greatness is forged in adversity, not in comfort. Game by game, Argentina clawed its way back. Against Mexico, Messi broke the deadlock with a low, curling shot, his celebration subdued but resolute. The team found its rhythm, dispatching Poland, then Australia, and then outlasting the Dutch in a penalty shootout that left hearts pounding. In the semi-final, Croatia's challenge faded under the weight of Messi's vision and a team that now played as one. Each step forward carried the memory of that early stumble, a lesson in humility and resolve. The final against France was a storm. Messi scored first from the penalty spot, Di Maria added another, but France refused to yield. Kylian Mbappé struck twice in 2 minutes, dragging the match into extra time. Messi scored again, only for Mbappé to answer with a penalty, completing his hat trick. The score leveled at 3-3, the world held its breath. In the penalty shootout, Messi walked forward, shoulders relaxed, eyes clear. He converted with the calm of a man who had lived this moment in his dreams and nightmares alike. When Montiel's final penalty crossed the line, Argentina erupted. Messi dropped to his knees, tears streaming as teammates swarmed him. In his hands at last, the World Cup trophy, the prize that had eluded him for so long. He lifted it high, gold gleaming under the stadium lights. In that instant, every sacrifice, every doubt, every heartbreak was transformed. The boy from Rosario, once told he might never grow tall enough to play, now stood atop the world, champion, leader, legend. Today, Messi's journey stands as living proof that greatness is forged in adversity, not granted by circumstance. Millions of children worldwide still face barriers, medical, financial, or otherwise, that threaten to silence their dreams before they begin. His story reminds us that belief, discipline, and support can turn frailty into triumph. The next Messi may be watching, waiting for someone to bet on the impossible. Thanks for joining us. Share your thoughts below.